Okay, I see it's now 10 o'clock, so I wanted to welcome everyone to this webinar for the NLGCA program. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a PowerPoint. My name is Peter Motivali. I'm the Division Director for the Division of Community and Education at the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, which is part of USDA. And so why don't we get started? I'll make a presentation, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions and comments and suggestions. So I'm going to share my screen right now. Can everyone see the screen? All right, great. Well, a big welcome to all of you for attending the webinar. As I said, my name is Peter Motivali. I'm a division director at the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, but I'm the acting national program leader for this program. And so I also wanted to note that we're going to be recording this webinar, so please be aware of that. And I also wanted to introduce the rest of the team. These are people you
Peter, you're muted.
Okay, the first one that I would like to, hold on a second. Somehow I got muted, and so let me share my screen again. Okay, can you see the PowerPoint? Great. Okay, first person I'd like to introduce is Donna Hyatt. She is the program specialist assigned to the NLGCA program. Also, Donovan McLaren. He is also a program specialist. He's new to NIFA, but he will be taking over for Donna on this program. And then helping us out today is Doricel Resto. She's also a program specialist, and thank you, Doricel, for stepping in. Donna is involved in another panel at the same time, so Doricel graciously came in. And then Praley Chitnis, who is an intern at NIFA and also is helping us with the webinar today. So thank you all for doing that. And now I'm not moving forward. Let me try that again. Okay, so what's the agenda for today? What we're going to do is introduce you, those of you who are not familiar with NIFA. I want to just give you a little background on NIFA and some of the available resources for those people who are new. Also, talk about the NLGCA program, give you an overview of the objectives, the eligibility requirements for the program, sort of the funding history, what's been done before in terms of the amounts available for awards, also the number of awards we've given, number of applications that have been there. Also talk about the goals and priorities of the program, and also look at the different project types, grant types that are in this award, and then look at the evaluation criteria for when we are looking at evaluating those different proposals. Also some general procedures for applying for NIFA grants, some tips that are very important to be have a successful application. Also very important, I think, to learn about and be successful in an application is volunteer as a panel member at NIFA for perhaps another panel. Then you get to learn about how panel work and how they evaluate different proposals. And then hopefully we'll have plenty of time for questions and suggestions and comments. So who are we? What do we do? Well, I'd say a good place to start if you want to learn about that is our website. So that's just nifa.usda.gov. We're the lead federal agency providing extramural funding for food and agriculture science. We're located in the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And our mission is to invest in and advance agricultural research, education, and extension to solve societal challenges. And what we want to do in our vision is to catalyze transformative discoveries, education, engagement to address agricultural challenges. Our budget in fiscal year 21 was about $1.9 billion. A large part of that is for what are called formula funds, but there's also a very large part that's for competitive funding, which the NLGCA program is part of. And many of you, the NLGCA program is of interest to you, but there's also quite a few other competitive programs that NIFA offers, which non-land grants are eligible for, and they cover many different topics related to food and agricultural sciences. This is just some of those different areas. And I'd like to note that our flagship programs, which is called the Agriculture and Food Research Initiative, or AFRI, has those programs have very wide eligibility. So you would be able to apply for those types of grants as well. So you can look and explore all these different opportunities for you to apply and seek funding. And to learn more about this, I urge you to look at these different web addresses. One of them is just to learn about different events that are happening in NIFA, but I think more importantly is to sign up to be on a listserv to get information about funding opportunities. And so that you can get emails with those funding opportunities sent directly to you. And so then you can be aware of what's coming up. There's also a blog and also a listing of all the funding opportunities that are at NIFA. And there's for finding out more specifics on those different programs, there is a request for applications calendar that you can also explore. And if you're just kind of wanting to know what the whole process is, how are the different proposals evaluated, you can go to this competitive grants flowchart, and it has all the different steps that occur with the competitive grant, both on the side of NIFA and also what would be the responsibility of an applicant. There are also other application resources which I recommend that you look at. The grant resources are there, information on how to specifically submit a grant, and then you can look at those grants that have been awarded. So maybe gives you some idea of the different topics that have been successful. By the way, as we go along, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. When we get to our question and answer period, we'll go through those, and as well as if you raise your hand, we can then call on you to ask a question. All right, let's get specifically into the capacity building grants for non-land grant colleges of agriculture, the NLGCA program, and some information about this specific program. The NLGCA program is basically a capacity building type of program. It's helping to assist the NLGCA certified institutions in maintaining and expanding their capacity in education, research, outreach, and those activities that are related to agriculture, renewable resources, and other similar disciplines like food sciences. A very important place to start when you're considering the NLGCA program is the request for applications. This year's fiscal year 22 call is located at this specific website. And I urge you to download that RFA and look over it very, very carefully, because it really contains all the information that you're going to need to be able to apply for this year's awards. One of the first things that is a requirement for eligibility to apply for this program is that the institution at which you're representing is a certified NLGCA institution. So currently there's 70 eligible institutions. The list of institutions is at this website. And the basic criteria is that it's a public university and that they offer at least a bachelor's degree in agriculture and a food science field. There are basically 32 specified areas of study that would fit to meet that requirement. How do you apply for that? Well, there's also a website here that shows what you need to do for your institution to become eligible. So there's a whole bunch of steps there, including submitting an application for certification. A little bit of background on what's happened with awards over time. So we have been appropriated approximately $5 million since 2017. That ends up being about $4.8 million that we have for making awards. And you can see that the number of proposals has been somewhat consistent in the 50s, but then in 2020, 21, which was sort of a combined year, we had 72 proposals submitted. And the funding rate is approximately 30%. Last year was about 33%. So this is actually has a pretty high funding rate. This year in 2022, we assume that there will be approximately the same amount of money appropriated, but we also have an additional $2.2 million from fiscal year 21 that will be available for the fiscal year 22 awards. So there's going to be approximately $7 million for awards for this year's awards. What are the program goals of NLGCA? Well, they're mostly, as I mentioned, they're focused on capacity, so either maintaining it or extending it. So one of those goals is to expand capacity to compete for funds from federal grants and other sources, to disseminate information, to encourage members of the broad agriculture and food science communities to participate in education, research, and outreach, and then purchase or acquire equipment or other infrastructure that are needed for research, education, or outreach, and then support faculty development, and then establish graduate assistantships. What are the program priorities for NLGCA? We're encouraging, and that's one of our words that we use, applications that are addressing this challenge to increase the number and diversity of students that are entering the food and agricultural related science technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM disciplines. And then also in terms of helping to build linkages with other institutions and the others that are having an ongoing commitment to the food and agricultural sciences. So we're going to talk a little bit about what are the project types and what are the grant types. And then under these project types, there are identified need areas that are put into the RFA. So all of this is in the RFA. So you can consult that to look and see how your proposal may align with these need areas that are identified under each project type. So the project types are either education, extension, research, or an integrated proposal that takes two or more of these project types and puts them together. Okay, so you'll notice here that there are very specific needs that are identified under each of these. And so it makes sense that if your proposal matches one of those needs, that will be very, very helpful. What are the different grant types? Well, there's what we call the regular one, and that has a maximum budget of $150,000, and they can cover between 2 and 3 years. So that money is going to be for over the 2 to 3 year period. There's a planning activity, or basically a conference grant, that's about $30,000, again, 2 to 3 years, and you wouldn't want to do the planning activity and also a collaborative application at the same time. We don't allow that. Now, we also encourage collaborative grants. These are ones that would be the applicant or one or more partners. And those have higher amounts, budgets that they can have per grant. There's $300,000 for what they call a joint grant. So that would be an applicant plus at least one partner. Those are for 3 years, and you must share the money among the partners. The large scale comprehensive initiatives, or LCI grants, they can go up to $750,000. Again, they're 3 years. And this is going to be the applicant plus 2 or more partners. So these all are what we call collaborative grants. And of course, the budget is higher because there's going to be partners associated with these. So we've got project types and we have grant types. These are where you want to place your application. So this is kind of like a summary a little bit, but a couple things here I wanted to note down is that the maximum number of awards per institution, where the institution is in the lead, is 2 per institution. So you can put in more than 2. You can apply with more than 2 applications, but the max you can get as an award would be 2 per institution. As I mentioned, the budgets this year that we have for awards is about $7 million, depending on what we get for fiscal year 22, what's appropriated. But in the past, it's been about 4.8 million what we have to make awards. And then the big thing here, folks, because we don't want to do everything at the last minute, is the application deadline is November 22nd, and it's up to about 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So very important to be aware of this deadline and not submit after the deadline. You'll have, most of those that are after the deadline are going to be rejected. What are some of the evaluation criteria that are used when evaluating a proposal? These are all stated in the RFA, but these are the ones when we go and talk to the panel in the peer review panel. This is what we give as a charge to them in terms of what they should use as criteria. So the potential for advancing quality of education or significance of the problem, the proposed approach and cooperative linkages, the institution capability and capacity building, key personnel. Okay. Are they appropriate? Do they have the experience and training necessary for the proposed award? And then the budget and cost effectiveness, these are areas that they're going to look to as well. There are some restrictions on, even though we talk about capacity and capability granting, there are some restrictions on what you can purchase. So please pay attention to that in the RFA when you're considering what you're going to ask for in your award. Now, in general, when we're applying for a NIFA grant, let's say your institution is new to this process, they're going to need to register with grants.gov and the system for award management. And please look up this application guide on NIFA. That was also a link that was in that earlier slide. And there are forms that are required to be included as part of the package. And so you need to pay attention to what you need to submit. If all those forms are not there, then you may not be considered. Your application may not be considered. And then you're going to be submitting your application through grants.gov. And all of the documents must be submitted in the PDF format. Okay, so here is the website where you would actually be able to download or view the RFA, but it also has a button for applying for the grant. So this is where you would go when you're going to be starting to apply for the grant. So an application here will have many different components. Notice there's some forms that need to be filled out. There needs to be different, of course, a budget, a data management plan needs to be submitted. Personnel data needs to be added. A big part of this, which we can focus on now, is what's called the project narrative. This is the meat and potatoes of what the proposal is all about. So you need to have different sections to that. There are some formatting requirements to it in terms of what we expect in the maximum number of pages, what type of font and size that can be used. And then notice here, there are different parts of this which you need to include, including an evaluation plan and a logic model. And the website also has, if you get to the guide, there's also a template for helping you put together a logic model. And if you have already submitted and you've gotten, you're resubmitting based on a former application, then you need to respond to that previous review, the reviews that you received back. Okay, so if you're first time .gov user, you're going to have to get a DUNS and SAM identifier. You want to do that well in advance. It may take a few months to do that. Your institution to get that. So when you get on grants.gov, you would then also look to get the package, the application package, and this is the button to press to get that application package for NLGCA specifically. And then you want to download the instructions off of there on the different forms and how to fill out everything. The timeline here, as many of you are aware, we published the RFA fairly recently in September. And then the deadline is on November 22nd. There'll be, for the process, we have to screen the proposals. So we'll do that before any kind of panel meets. And it's going to take us about 3 to 6 months, to get to the point where we would come up with awards. So we have to form a panel. There's a panel manager who's involved in coordinating that. And also the panel needs to review the proposals, and then they're going to be meeting to discuss those various proposals and rank them. Okay, so then you will be notified of that, depending on availability of funds. If you don't receive a confirmation of your application within 30 days, then please come. So that's what our deadline is to make sure that you get confirmation of that. So that would be within 30 days of the RFA deadline of November 22nd. Okay, so what's the evaluation process? It's really two-part. It's screening the applications. It's part of a effort to make sure that the proposals are meeting the administrative requirements. And then what we go through is a peer review process. And then we're going to have a review panel of experts who are going to be able to go through those proposals and review them and then rank them based on their merits. A big point that I think a very successful person in this is really becomes a student of the RFA. So really go through the RFA, look and see what the main goals are, the criteria that are going to be used by the reviewers, and really go through these instructions as well, and how to assemble the proposal, and check again and again that you have the required elements and documents that are required in the proposal. So if we want to be successful, you're going to have to, for any reader of that proposal, they need to be understanding why the project is important to the discipline, to the community, to the region. You want to excite the reviewers about the ideas that you're presenting, and what kind of engagement is going to be occurring. Have a clear rationale and objectives that fit the program priorities. Again, the budget and goals need to be clear and appropriate for the activities that have been outlined in the proposal. And then if there are any potential pitfalls, address them. Any kind of shortcomings that may occur, and then what are some of the plans that you're going to be doing to address those potential pitfalls. So you want to also show that there's provide a clear demonstration on the institutional need and the capacity building potential. What are the relevance to the local, regional, and national needs? Indicate the cost effectiveness, and then provide support letters from collaborators. Clearly defined goals related to the RFA need areas. Remember, those are outlined in the RFA. Again, there are some limitations related to instrumentation and infrastructure expenses, so make sure those are there. And then when we deal with these large-scale comprehensive initiatives, it may help you to start with a planning grant and show some experience working with your collaborators. Another tip would be for those of you who are new to NIFA and applying for a NIFA grant. It really helps if you can serve as a panelist. So there is a way here that you can volunteer to serve as a panelist. And these peer review panels are deal with a lot of different topics. And of course, you are experts in different areas. And one of the things that we also look for in our panels is representation, diversity. And there's a whole process here with the panel orientation and where you learn about a particular grant program. And there are ways here you can sign up for that. And these are some of the links that are there for signing up. Okay, I just want to mention also that we'll be supplying you with a copy of this presentation so that you can access some of those links. And so I wanted to leave plenty of time for questions or comments or suggestions. So why don't we go ahead and I will take off my PowerPoint so we can see everybody. So why don't we go ahead? Are there any questions that anyone has or comments or suggestions? Any questions in the chat room? I see Stephen there. Stephen, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. It's a very helpful seminar. I'm at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, and we are currently not on the eligibility list. There are a few other schools in Arkansas who are. We're very interested in building a program, especially in urban agriculture. We have a lot of initiatives that we've started at the institution level over the last few years. And looking at the types of grants that have been funded through this program, a lot of the things that you brought up as the criteria, they really fit exactly with what we're trying to do. And I think we really fill a need, but we're not eligible. So I'm wondering if there's a mechanism. I mean, should we be trying to partner with one of the eligible schools in the state? Or if you have any, advice. I mean, we also work with our local extension office. So we have our state, division of ag that we've been working with to build our campus program. So what would you recommend for, someone in our situation?
Well, for this particular program, there are other programs at NIFA that would be relevant to your interest. But for this specific program, you would need to partner with an NLGCA certified institution. They would be the lead, and then you would be a partner with them. So you would need to work with them. And I think it's important to establish a dialogue and see if there's some joint areas of interest. So I don't know if you've already done that, but that would be my suggestion.
Are there examples of successful proposals, that institutions have done that? Or you've got an eligible school partnering with a school that is not yet eligible. I hope we will eventually become eligible.
Yes. So the only limitation we have is that the lead institution needs to be an NLGCA certified institution. So you could be a partner there, have a sub-award off of that particular award.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Peter, we have a question in the chat, and Carmen Licon asked, is it possible to partner with a private company for LGI?
I believe there, LCI, yeah, I believe there is, you can do that. That would be a sub-award that would need to be worked out with the lead institution. Any other questions?
Yeah, there's another question in the chat. It says, my institution is not currently listed as NLGCA, but is eligible to apply for NLGCA designation. What is the general time frame to get the results back once the application memo is submitted?
Well, so the process, you have to submit the memo. And then what's going to happen is we work with our policy division to look and see if your curriculum, typically the issue becomes focused on the curriculum, whether there is, you meet the requirement for having a major, at least at a bachelor's level, in those 32 areas. So very often that can be a stumbling block because it's a co-major or minor and our certificate program. We see a lot of that. And so it shouldn't take that long. It may be a couple of months maybe before we would come back to you, because then what we have to do is we need to get this approved through our policy division and our Office of Grants and Financial Management. So it takes a little bit of time for that process to occur.
All right, and
Here, if you're taking questions.
Yes, please.
Okay, Chris Keys, I'm with Louisiana Tech University. I guess I'm seeking a clarification. I believe in the past, Louisiana Tech was certified as an NLGCU, but let it lapse.
Mm-hmm.
We received McIntyre Stennis capacity funds through our forestry program here. My understanding is that participating in this program does not void eligibility for McIntyre Stennis and vice versa. Is that?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But I don't know that for sure. I'd have to check on that. Chris, I don't really know about that.
Okay. Yeah, we're eager to get back in, but of course we wouldn't want to void our opportunity there with McIntyre
Right.
Stennis.
Right. So I don't really know that if that's the case. I'd have to check on that.
Would you do that for me?
Yeah, if you could you send me an email? My email is peter.motivali@usda.gov.
Yep, I will do that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
okay, Peter, we have an additional question in the chat from Matthew Swenson. Could you discuss how the NLGCA program defines capacity building versus implementation-focused projects? For example, if a program wants to add field-based internships for students, would the NLGCA program be well suited to support designing this program, arranging and overseeing student internships, or both?
I think it would be appropriate, especially if it was in food and agricultural science area. So I do think that would be appropriate, because part of the effort is to increase interest in those in food and agricultural sciences, and especially in STEM related areas. So I think this would be appropriate for that. Any other questions? I'd just like to say also, if as you're going through the RFA, it just came out and you do have questions, please send them to us. Donna Hyatt, myself, and Donovan are all focused in on this program, and so we can respond to those as you are coming up with those questions. They necessarily have to be big substantive questions. They can also be ones on the process, because obviously sometimes a little challenging to know what you have to do.
Right.
There was a question here from another Matthew Swenson question. What was that? I didn't see that.
Yes, another question. Even if cost sharing or matching isn't required, is it a common feature of successful NLGCA projects that they demonstrate a considerable amount of leverage resources from the applicant and our project partners?
Yeah, so the matching is not, cost sharing matching is not required for this program. It's not going to be an evaluation criteria for your success in getting an award. Showing that there is collaboration and experience in that collaboration among partners is important. I don't think that we're going to necessarily focus on leveraging resources, but just showing that there is some kind of collaboration that's occurring among the partners is going to be important. And also that the partners are also getting a certain allotment of the funding. So they're not just there in name.
Hi, Carmen from Fresno State. I have also a question. Is it possible to partner with a private company for the large capacity building?
Yes, I think it is. You know, the big thing here is that the lead is an NLGCA certified institution. So you can have subawards that go to partners. So they would be a partner. Some cases, that's a good thing, right? Getting industry involved or, you know, some other, you know, maybe it's a nonprofit. Those type of institutions would be good partners.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And there's another question in the chat. For the LCI, is there an expectation that more than 2 applicants institutions makes the proposal stronger?
No, you need to have 2 or more. So we're not going to, you know, because you've got 10, that's going to make it stronger. So the requirement is 2 or more. And so if you meet that, then you've met the requirements for that. It's also trying to show that there is collaboration among the institutions. So how are they going to contribute to the proposal and collaborate? What's the way that collaboration is going to occur? Because remember that there are some limitations in terms of the amount of funding you're going to get. So if you get too many institutions, then it may make it so that there's not enough resources. So that would be considered. There may be some situations where it's better to have more institutions because you know, the extent impacts that might occur. So it's just depending on what's appropriate and what are the objectives of the proposal.
There's another question. Would you recommend that NLGCA projects retain external evaluators, either because it's expected or because this tends to result in more effective project evaluation?
There needs to be a plan for evaluation. I think often the external ones may be more effective. I don't think it's required. I'd have to look at that more closely. I don't think we were requiring that it be external, but very often those external ones are effective, but it is not a requirement, I don't believe.
All right, and we have an additional question. Is there a minimal percent of award to each partner in an LGI?
I'm not sure of that. I don't think so, but I would need to re-examine that. I don't know. I think it has to, it has to be appropriate for whatever activity that they're doing. But I don't know about minimums. I'm not sure of. We'll need to check into that. Any other questions anyone has? Well, folks, thank you very much for your time today. And I want to thank all the people who asked questions as well. And I know that maybe there will be more questions as you consider the RFA and you're working on your proposal and trying to get everything completed. We do have a lot of people that you can ask for clarification. And so please do that. And also, if there's any issues that you face, again, we're here to help facilitate it. We want more participation because that's an indication that we're reaching more people and we're going to have a bigger impact for the funding that we have. So please don't get discouraged just because there are a lot of things to fill out and complete. Hopefully you have time and we can be also help you with understanding anything that isn't clear. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for your time and effort. And again, thanks for the NIFA guys for helping with all this. We're going to also post this recording of this webinar on our website, and that'll take a little bit of time before we do that. But I believe Donovan's going to be sending out a copy of the presentation we have, so you'll have that information right away. But the recording will be up there. I don't know how long it takes. We have to make it compatible for people, all people. So it takes a little bit of time to do that. So thank you all and have a pleasant day. And we look forward to receiving your proposal. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.